Transfer this combined measurement to your next length of paper, and using a straight edge and knife, or scissors if you feel confident, cut your strip of paper. Once it's pasted and relaxed, butt it against the previous length and smooth into the corner and adjacent wall. Don't be tempted to bring a full width of wallpaper around the corner. This is where you will often see first-timers make a real botch-up, resulting in puckering and splits when the paper dries. Establish plumb again on the adjacent wall, allowing the second strip of wallpaper to cover the first overlap by 10 mm. When pasting vinyl paper over vinyl, a special PVA vinyl adhesive, like Sure Stick, must be applied to the edge to ensure a good bond. It's important to wipe all traces of vinyl adhesive from the finished surface. Now I can continue with full width lengths until I encounter the next obstacle. Light switch, John. How do I deal with this?
Turn the power off first. Position the wallpaper loosely over the fitting. Mark the corners. Lift the paper and use scissors to cut from the centre to each corner, producing 4 triangles. Crease each of these against the base of the fitting and then trim using a straight edge and a sharp knife. Most modern fittings have snap-on covers, which makes this job a lot easier.
The method for getting a neat fit around circular electrical fittings is as follows. Mark the centre, then make a series of radiating cuts with your scissors. Be careful not to overcut. Scribe the wallpaper in with the back edge of your putty knife. And once again, trim and wipe off any paste marks from the switch. Hanging wallpaper around window and door frames utilises the same basic steps. Some older style windows have scalloped sills, which may suggest a wee bit of a challenge. However, if you remember the basic techniques for papering around a circular light fitting or a switch, you shouldn't have any difficulties. Hang the full length, first butting the edge against the previously hung length. Let the excess loosely overhang the architrave. With the smoother, or wallpaper hanging brush, smooth down to the top of the architrave. With the wallpaper in this position, make a mark where the corner of the architrave touches. Gently lift the paper and make a diagonal cut from the waste side of the paper to the mark. Give the paper an overall smooth before using the back edge of a putty knife to crease the paper into the architrave. Trim off the waste using a straight edge and a sharp knife. Once again, wipe the architraves with a damp sponge to ensure no paste adheres to the surface. I'm going to leave John to get on with finishing the room while I show you 1 or 2 last things. When it comes to outside corners, the approach is basically the same as for internal corners, but allow for a 30mm wraparound. The next length is overlapped 5mm in from the corner edge. Once again, remember, if you're hanging on vinyl, you will need to use a PVA adhesive for vinyl on vinyl to ensure a good bond. Well, that's pretty much the basics of wallpapering. I've had a lot of fun and I just love the finished result. And you will too when you decorate with wallpaper. Stick around, or should I say stay pasted, for all you need to know about preparing wall surfaces. If you're starting with new jibboard, lightly sand the plaster stopping with 120 grit sandpaper to get rid of imperfections. Use a horizontal sanding action to stay true to the wall surface. If you sand up and down on the joints, you're likely to cause indentations that will show through the wallpaper. Dust thoroughly and then apply a liberal coating of size. You can buy size in granulated form or this ready mixed latex size, which is formulated to make it very easy to slide the paper into position. If the existing wallpaper is vinyl, you're in luck. The top layer peels off a treat. The backing paper can then be scraped off easily once it has been soaked with a little warm water. Once that's out of the way, you'll need to give the walls a coat of fresh size, and when it's dry, you'll be ready to start hanging your new wallpaper. If you're redecorating an old home and the walls are already covered with layers of old wallpaper, you'll need to strip it so you can start with a nice smooth surface. This Cinza wallpaper tool scores the surface, so either steam or a mixture of DIF wallpaper stripper can penetrate the layers and rapidly dissolve the old paste. Enamelled bathroom and kitchen walls need to be washed with sugar soap, rinsed clean, sanded with 80 grit sandpaper, dusted and coated with size. Nothing really to get your feathers ruffled about. Many home decorators will be familiar with jibboard that has become yellowed with age, or stained from weeks of waiting for a leak to be repaired. If the room you're decorating fits this description, the walls will need to be coated with an oil-based pigmented sealer. Otherwise, show-through could be a problem. Remember the correct steps. Plaster stopping will need to be lightly sanded with 120 grit sandpaper. Next, apply 1 coat of pigmented sealer. This should be thinned approximately 5% to ensure it penetrates. Once it's dry, sand with 80 grit sandpaper. And then apply a liberal, even coat of size. Use a damp sponge to wipe off any splashes from mouldings, architrave and skirting boards. Preparation is worth getting right because it will give you a much better finished result. There's also a belief out there that it's quicker to paint. But think about it. If I were to paint this room, I'd have to sand, undercoat, sand again, and apply at least 2 good finishing coats in order to get a good result. Along with the heavier work of painting, there's also the hassle of cutting in and masking around the fittings and architraves. Once you get into the swing of wallpapering, it's lots of fun. And in my opinion, much easier than painting.